Today's spooky spot, we'll be having a look at the McFarlane Toys Twisted Fairy Tales Hansel. Or Hansel. It's Hansel. This comes to us from the line of Twisted Fairy Tales from the folks over at McFarlane Toys. Hansel would be paired with his sister Gretel. To see more toys, you can head over to www.spawn.com. Spin around the back of the package. The infamous McFarlane Monsters action figure line is back. Series 4 focuses on beloved fairy tale and nursery rhyme characters, all skewed by the McFarlane vision into something new and horrible. We've already had a look at Miss Muffet and Humpty Dumpty. Other figures available, there were Gretel, Hansel, Peter Pumpkin Eater, and Red Riding Hood. It seems like Red Riding Hood actually is the hardest figure to find of the four, or of the six, I should say. And to check her out online on eBay, she usually is the most expensive. This is also from 2005. Woo! 2005. Spot's going to take a very terrifying break. I'm going to get this opened up, and when we come back, we're going to get a better look at Twisted Fairy Tales Hansel. Or Hansel. There's more heading your way, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. When you get him out of packaging, Hansel comes in several accessories, several different parts. He comes with the main floor base, which his candy cane suspended rod will basically attach itself to. Before we do that, let's just look at the base itself. All the little skulls, bones, my guess it the remains of other children that fell to the hands of the evil witch that had this candy house. We all know the stories. We know the story of Hansel and Gretel. They were two kids that ran away from home, basically ran into this forest and came across a house of candy. What temptation would there be for a child other than a house of candy? And turned out inside was an evil witch that was fattening them up, and only, of course, to want to eat them. Did it end well? Well, the witch didn't end well for the witch, let's just say it that way. But I like the base, though. A little candy cane. There was a candy cane there. There's a couple of little lollipops sticking up from the ground. There's a mouse right there. I guess he's waiting for whatever is going to be falling out. Maybe he helped pick away at the bones that are scattered onto the floor here. Hansel also comes with a candy cane pole. And we can just take that and it clips into the base here. Now you have to make sure you clip it in the right way because there's this little peg. Let's see if we can find it here. I'm trying to do this without looking through the lens finder. There we go. This is going to clip right into place. Just like that. It's a little tighter to get that in there. And you've got the candy cane tower. The tower itself is cool too because this doesn't rotate. This is just sculpted plastic, but all these little pulleys that are heavily rusted, as if, you know, the witch would have had this for a long period of time, probably trapped numerous children inside here. You have all this excessive chain. There's enough clearance of a chain that wraps around the top and comes down, and there's this little hook that, getting it out of packaging, this hook was not properly attached to the chain. In fact, I think it was stuck to the tape. But this basically wraps around the chain, the little pulley wheels, and over the top and down. It's I wish it was a little better laid out, because I find every time you want to adjust Hansel, this little chain part comes off and the chain falls off the candy cane tower. Little pole here. But this hook clips right into place, and that hangs. That will hold the cage in place. I'll show you guys that in a second. But all this excess chain, I just wish this wasn't here. I suppose you could kind of just wrap it around the base just to kind of free it up. At least then it looks a little more tidier than having all this extra stuff hanging down. Wish it was a little more attached, because I mean, these don't move. These pulleys don't, the wheels themselves don't move. They're just affixed. So I wish that they had just glued the chains in those areas so the chain wasn't going to flop off so you wouldn't find yourself having to do this all the time. But you got something that looks like that. We'll just move that to the side. And let's have a look at Hansel. Now Hansel's inside a cage. Very nice paint on the cage itself. Carries over that same rusted motif that was on the wheels and pulleys on the pole. The cage can attach to the little hook like that, and it can suspend. It doesn't suspend high, or doesn't really suspend high. It sits actually relatively low, and I guess that's where you could take the extra clearance of those chains and just bring it down a little bit. But again, you'll want to adjust it down here so that you can raise the cage a little higher than what it's doing right now. Let's go ahead and take it off the hook. I'll just move that to the side. Now, you would think that Hansel is permanently in the cage, like there's really no way to get him out. You actually can take him out. First things first, the bone that he's holding in his hand. Take that out of his hand. And to do that, detach it from itself, pull it one end off, and then you can take the other end and slide it through his hands. That's pretty much the only thing that obstructs him from getting out of the cage, because you can open the cage and you got to get his hand over the one part of the cage. There we go. And you got to get his foot over top to clear this section here. There we go. And once that's cleared, this cage will open up. And it takes a little bit of adjusting to get Hansel out. You can slide him right out of the cage. There's the bent, mangled metal cage that he was living in. I mean, he's just a disfigured mess. You would imagine, I mean, he's probably been in that cage for a long period of time, that by now he's lost feeling in his feet. His muscles have tightened up. He pretty much can't move because he's been crouched inside that small space. It also looks like the witch has done a little bit of surgery on poor Hansel here, perhaps rendering him of any sort of intelligence. She's basically just made him into just a mess of a man. He was such a... And, you know, the thing is, too, judging by how old he is and the fact that, you know, the witch would have captured them when they were kids, my guess is poor Hansel's been in that cage for a lot of time. There's really no posability. I mean, you can move his arms, but you kind of have to be also weary of how, you know, how those arms were when they were in the cage, because getting him back in the cage tends to be a little harder than getting him out of the cage. He does also have a little bit of movement in his head, but boy, oh boy, he just... There's not much going on upstairs, as they say. Not much at all. And I guess the legs can rotate slightly too. But again, I generally keep it in pretty much the same pose that I see it. Actually, I really even shouldn't say that. I keep it basically him in the cage and just suspended. That's how I'm going to likely just have him displayed, because it just makes no sense, you know, to take him out of package. I mean, you know, you could have him out of the cage, but really, what's he going to do? He's no help to Gretel, that's for sure. That is for sure. Paint's nice, though. With the dingy color of his clothes, his feet, again, are just wrinkled messes. Poor, poor Hansel. Again, recipe of... It's an exercise in patience to get Hansel back into his cage. First things first, you want to get the main foot through. That's your biggest obstacle. Then tuck the foot up, that you get it over top of this section right here. And get his toe over that. Then make sure that you bring his hand over. There we go. Actually, you know what? It was a little harder the first couple of times I did this, but sure enough, doing it for the review, yeah, he fits in a lot easier than what I struggled with before. Then go ahead and slide the bone back through his hands. There we go. And attach the bone, the other end of the bone, to the other side. And just peg the two together. There we go. And then when you're finished, take the cage, hang it by the candy cane pole, and Hansel is back to his prison. Poor, poor Hansel. It's a really cool piece. Oh, and also one of the other things too that he comes with, which I didn't get a chance to show you right off the bat, also comes with an axe. Again, it probably serves no purpose to him right now because I really don't even think he's be able to wield an axe for how disfigured his limbs are. But the axe is pretty cool. Hansel's a fun piece. I feel as if, though, he's one of those things where maybe you'd want to get Gretel as a standalone figure to Hansel. Hansel makes no sense really to be on his own. Although, to be fair, McFarlane Toys does, again, astonish me with the level of detail to a really grotesque figure, taking characters that we know and love, Hansel and Gretel, and turning Hansel here into a disfigured mess. Somehow, when it comes to male and female characters, McFarlane always seems to find a way to make the women sexier, and yet he makes the guys just into just disastrous messes. And that pretty much sums up Hansel here. Today's spooktacular spot. It's okay, man. It's okay. It's okay. We're having a look today at the Twisted Fairy Tales Hansel. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more terrific spooky spots heading to you this month of Spottober. Still got a couple left. Stay tuned for those. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.